When a relationship ends, especially a major one, like your first real love, it doesn't just feel like a breakup. It feels like the most central, vibrant part of your life has been completely wiped out. The daily routine, the shared fun, the anchor of your world, even when it wasn't completely perfect, is just gone. Suddenly, you are entirely lost. You enter a deep, heavy fog of depression, and your emotions start running completely wild. But the most frustrating part of this entire crisis is the absolute failure of your own logic. You sit there with your clear, objective thoughts, knowing exactly how bad it is to feel this way. You try to reason with yourself. You try to logically convince your heart that it shouldn't be hurting or obsessing anymore. Yet, your reasoning is completely useless against your feelings. You know the facts, you understand the reality, but you are utterly powerless to control the storm happening inside you. Your logic cannot override your pain. And here is the bad news. Every piece of advice people throw at you, or that you desperately try to tell yourself, doesn't seem to work. You've heard it all. Just give it time. Focus on yourself. Go to the gym. You deserve better. But right now, in this exact hour, those phrases mean absolutely nothing. Everything looks incredibly dark, totally hopeless, and underneath all the noise, you just really want that person back. But there is good news. Millions of people have stood in the exact same crater and faced this identical system crash. If this is your first love, the data shows you are over twice as likely to feel this specific type of ground-shattering trauma. You've never had to survive something like this before. Your mind has no experience to fall back on, but the sheer scale of these numbers proves something vital. What you are trapped in right now is a temporary biological storm. It feels like the end of the world, but it is a hallucination of the panic. It is not the permanent truth, and it is not your objective reality. So, let's look at the math of this. How is your ex not an objective reality? How can this person, this god or goddess, who was the absolute center of your universe, not actually be real? Think about it logically. If this person genuinely possessed the ultimate objective virtues and beauty that you see in them, how come the entire planet isn't worshiping them? How come the believers of a different faith don't believe in your God? To a stranger passing by on the street, your deity is just a regular, ordinary human being walking past. The most beautiful things you see in them are, objectively, not them at all. It is what your existential self desires. It is what your mind is desperately looking for. They didn't see themselves the way you do, because they can't. They aren't you. They didn't live your life. They don't share your internal wiring. And while they could understand you somewhat, they could never entirely decode the masterpiece you painted over their face. When you look back at your ex in the wreckage of a heartbreak, you think you are missing a person, but the reality is, you miss the stabilizing anchor of your own identity. Your mind naturally expects tomorrow to look like yesterday. When that person leaves, your daily loop shatters overnight. When you look back at the ex, what you are actually seeing is the ghost of your own structured, predictable, and safe life. You are looking at the version of you that knew exactly who he was when he woke up in the morning. And it's exactly this confusion about what you've really lost that makes people do things they later regret. If you haven't embarrassed yourself yet, if you haven't sent those frantic 2 a.m. texts or chased someone who has already made their decision, now is the exact moment to take a step back. Look, a heartbreak rarely makes a person lose their mind entirely or do dangerous things, but it can happen. People experience different intensities of this trauma, and some systems enter a state of absolute blind panic. If you want to prevent that crash, and actually deal with the problem logically, you need to learn how to symbolize things. Your brain is currently treating your ex like an irreplaceable objective deity. You need to strip away their face and look at the raw components underneath. If your ex was beautiful, realize that what you actually desire is the concept of beauty. which is just a fundamental biological drive. If they were funny, or understood you perfectly, that isn't magic. That's just intelligence and empathy. If they were loyal, that just means your system craves a deep, real connection. When you look at your ex, you're looking at one person who happened to embody everything you were searching for at that point in your life. You think the two of you were a mystical, perfect match that you can never find anywhere else on Earth. But let's look at the raw biology of how you actually got together. Think about this scenario. If you were left alone on a deserted island with a random girl your age, eventually the two of you would fall in love. That isn't fate. That is pure biology and survival mechanics. Your ex is fundamentally just a girl you ended up knowing because the two of you were left on a specific island together. You ended up together because the situation allowed it to happen. The timing, the location, the specific coordinates where your life paths crossed. Think about the math of how you actually selected each other out of the entire pool of people available. It came down to a temporary synchronization. At that exact point in time, your interests aligned, your environments overlapped, and you matched each other's energy. That's why the relationship happened. But characters change. Life phases shift. The energies that matched perfectly on that island can drift apart when the environment changes. Who is to say that after you finally leave this current island, you won't meet someone who may fit the person you've become even better? This isn't about insulting your ex or claiming they were flawed. This is about looking at the math so you can finally give up on a dead loop because you realize it is no longer reasonable to try to claw them back. Right now, this heartbreak makes you feel like an absolute loser. You feel like you are failing, like your value has been completely wiped out. But your own history contradicts that data. If your ex was truly as incredible, beautiful, and high value as you think they are, remember this: you, in the past, were the one who scored her. You cannot be a statistical loser if you were capable of winning that prize in the first place. The ability to attract someone like that still belongs to you. You did it once on that island, and once you navigate your way off it, you'll be capable of doing it again. And this is the exact coordinate where all that standard cliché advice people throw at you, like go to the gym or focus on yourself, finally starts to make logical sense. Those phrases aren't actually useless. They were just completely impossible for your system to process when your brain was in a state of acute panic. But now that you have the math, you can look at that empty space in your life differently. Right now, you are probably trapped in a deeply isolating thought loop. You look around and think, there is not a single person on this earth who could actually understand or sympathize with the specific weight of my heartbreak right now. You feel entirely alone. Out of 8 or 9 billion human beings on this planet, you feel like an anomaly, but you need to take that crushing loneliness and flip the code on it. Stop viewing that isolation as the mark of a loser. View it as the unique, heavy experience of a winner who loved deeply. The objective truth is that we are all alone in some way, but we are alone together. Every single one of those human beings carries those massive hidden desires right behind their casual, everyday faces. But look, we are not rushing here. This isn't a directive to desperately run out, jump into the dating pool, and try to force yourself to find love all over again. Your system is tired, and forcing a new romantic loop right now will only cause another glitch. The immediate goal is much simpler. Redirect your focus. Take all the attention you've been giving to something that's already over and anchor it somewhere else, on the people already in your life. Look at your friends and peers, whether male or female, and start actively observing them. If you look closely, you will realize they have their own hidden depths, their own heartbreaks, and their own capacity for deep connection. Force yourself to focus on them as they actually are, rather than on your own projections. The world is full of high-value, deep human data. At the same time, focus back on your own movement. You don't need to radically reinvent your life or force yourself into extreme, uncomfortable changes. Just move through the world with an open, calm mind. Go out and do something new if you feel like it, or simply run your normal daily loops and engage in your regular activities. But change the lens you look through. Keep your system open. You don't need to chase, you don't need to panic, and you don't need to force the next chapter to happen today. Let the environment do its work. Let the next island take its time. While you are letting that outer chaos settle, you also need to reevaluate how you handle the memories of the past. Right now, in the heavy fog of depression, your mind has probably spent countless hours looping on the wreckage, obsessing over every detail. People will tell you to just forget it or let it go, but that advice is structurally impossible. Your brain cannot just delete historical data. So, don't look at those past loops as wasted time. Use them as an honest reflection. Look objectively at the data of what went wrong. What went wrong with you, and what went wrong with her? What were the mistakes? What were the behavioral patterns that caused the system to erupt? You aren't doing this to blame yourself or sink into shame. You are doing this to learn from it. You analyze the old errors specifically so that your next love experience will be more stable, more calibrated, and tuned to better patterns. The past wasn't a meaningless void. It was the training ground that upgrades your machine for the future. If you can just stay open, calm, and deeply respectful of the world around you, you allow the chaos to settle, and the right circuit will naturally close when the coordinates align again.